Illini Nation, it's your man in the middle, Deon Thomas, bringing you nothing but the very best. And tonight, there's no different. This guy is one of my idols. I watched him during his time, no, not at the University of Illinois. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit young for that, but his time in Kansas City before they became the Sacramento Kings. Best known to me was that jump shot that just lit up the airwaves when he was with the Phoenix Suns. He was your University of Illinois all-time leading scorer. He made one of the absolute biggest shots. And if you ask anybody, everybody was at the game when he knocked off Michigan State and Irvin Magic Johnson. We got jump shot number 8 himself, the great Eddie Johnson, joining us tonight. Eddie, thank you, man. I mean, you get off the plane from Cabo and you hop on with the young fella, man. You have no idea how much I appreciate this.
Look, my pleasure, Deon. And, I'm just such a fan of everything you've done, since obviously at University of Illinois and breaking my records, one. And then two, just everything you have done for the university since then. Man, it's my pleasure, man. Anytime I can get on and talk about my Fighting Illini days and just talk to you about our past, both from the Chicago area, man, it's great.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you this. I've had so many people, and before we get into this, it just seems that everybody, those that were born and were not born, because I know I was older than some of those people, like, man, you remember the shot that Eddie Johnson made? I'm like, dude, I was a little bit of something at that time. So what are you talking about? But everybody says that they were at that game. But before that, we are both West Siders. You know, people confuse and think because I went to Simeon, I'm from the South Side. We are both West Siders. But tell me about your time at Westinghouse. People don't understand. And, they go back and they think of the Kevin Durant's and, and they think of some of the other, I mean, not Kevin Durant's, but they think of the Kevin Garnett's and other guys that played at Westinghouse. I don't think they remember, just how great Westinghouse teams were before he and Ronnie Fields got there, but your career at Westinghouse as well. Tell a little bit about, your time at Westinghouse and CPS basketball at that time as a whole.
Look, Deon, the old heads remember.
Oh,
and that's always important to me. Like, I don't get caught up. I think a lot of people that didn't grow up in Chicago and they're like fans, say, quote unquote, of Michael Jordan, they always think that, like myself, Isaiah Thomas, Mark Aguirre, that we're a little envious of Mike because he came into Chicago and took over. No, I was always a Bulls fan. I grew up watching the Bulls, and that's never been the case. And I don't worry about the new school kids don't remember Eddie Johnson. The old heads do.
Oh, yeah.
They understand how good we were back in the day. And that's all that matters to me because those are my peers. I don't get caught up in what the new school guys think, and they don't want to remember the past and the great teams that was before Kevin Garnett took a vacation in Chicago. Yeah, exactly. I said it. We were Chicago. Like you, Mark Aguirre, Isaiah Thomas, Sonny Parker, Ronnie Lester. We were Chicago. Kendall Gill, Nick Anderson, Ken Snake Norman. We were Chicago. And I'll never let anybody take that from us, okay? Even with the new schools, they can talk about Anthony Davis, and they can talk about, like Rodney Field, all these guys. Man, please. If we would have had them back in our day, they would have got beat up on the court because we were no joke, man. And look, the team that I played on back then at Westinghouse, even before Mark Aguirre transferred over, he played at Austin High School. Mm-hmm. And I just remember as our team was starting to get better and we had 2 Italian coaches, Frank Lolino and Roy Condotti. And Roy Condotti's had a lot of success, obviously, in the suburban schools as well. And you know what? Those two guys taught us a lot about basketball, and they really weren't basketball guys. And lo and behold, after a couple of years at Westinghouse, we developed into a tremendous team. It was myself, Skip Dillard, Bernard Randolph. It's just guys like that were tremendous players. And then, we beat Mark Aguirre. In my junior year, we beat them in the playoffs. And so, he gave us 40. I mean, so it wasn't like we did anything to stop him. And he decided to come over and transfer to Westinghouse the next year. And it just gave us a devastating team. I mean, all 12 players, I believe, at that point in time, got Division I offers. And I can just run down a line of all the great players we played with. But most notable, and most people remember them, is Skip Dillard, obviously, Bernard Randolph, and Mark Aguirre that went to DePaul. And DePaul had some great years. But our high school team was no joke. I mean, Mark and I both averaged about 28, 29. Skip averaged about 18 to 20. And we ran through everybody. We were 28, 29 and 0. And the Phillips solved us. What did they do? They trapped us. We had no point guard. Tommy Walker, I'm sorry I'm throwing you under the bus, but you weren't a point guard then. That's the problem. And they trapped us, and we couldn't get the ball up. Every time we got the ball across half court, me and Mark scored. I was like 12 or 13 in the championship game against Phillips. I think Mark was like 11 for 12. But we turned the ball over a lot, and Darius Clemens, who went to Loyola, had a tremendous year at Loyola. That's another great Chicagoland product. They beat us. And so we didn't get an opportunity to go downstate, but we had the best high school team, I think, that's ever been. I do. I think our high school team was ridiculous. We were like the Beatles back then. Matter of fact, we were the first high school team to sell out the amphitheater. I mean, we had 18 to 20,000 in the amphitheater for our semifinal game and our championship game. Our semifinal game was against King, Teddy Grubbs. He was on that team. So we had a lot of talented players back in Chicago, man. And I tell guys, man, the old school guys remember us. We don't have to worry about these new school guys. They can jump on board with all these new guys right now. But, man, please, we were the thing back then.
Oh, no doubt. And, and that's one of the things that irks me about this generation of players is that they don't go back and look at the past. So, and those people that came before them, people think, this recruiting when Illinois kind of fell off with recruiting in Chicago, that, we don't have players. And man, Chicago, and in particular, the Chicago Public League and the Catholic League, I would put up against anybody, any state in the country, any city in the country, because we have done nothing but year after year after year after year, turn out some of the best players in the country. And if you look at the NCAAs the past several years, every team that has gone on to the Elite Eight, Final Four, always has Chicago guys on their team. So you're 100% right. These new school kids need to understand. They need to do their homework, especially the ones from Chicago.
Look, Deon, and I just remind people, just go statistically, just go look at the numbers of what Chicago players have done. And I'll always throw that out there. People bring up New York, they can bring up LA, and that's fine.
Yep.
But I guarantee you, Chicago basketball players, high school, Chicagoland products that left Chicago and went to college somewhere, if it wasn't DePaul, wasn't Illinois State, or Loyola, we made an impact. And so we could ball. And the reason we could ball is because of the environment we grew up in. And we grew up, man, like, you had to travel around to go play. And they did it in New York and they did it in LA, I'm sure. But not to the level I think we did in Chicago, man. We had to go grow up as basketball players growing up in that city. And I remember going to places, man, where I sometimes thought I might not get out alive. But the love of the game made me go back and play, get beat up, get talked about, get challenged, and learn how to play the game. And so, if people never heard of Chicago Summer League, I guarantee it was no summer league better than the Chicago Summer League. And that's where everybody got their name. And so, no, man, we got the best players. I continually tell people that.
Oh, you and me both. When I was coaching, I told people, I was like, I broke down the country when I was doing my recruiting, because I'd go East Coast, West Coast, South, well, not so much to the West Coast. I go east to the South, especially Southeast Texas, and then in the Midwest. And I tell them, I was like, okay, you want a guard that's going to play one-on-one. Okay, you go over east, you go to New York, you go to Baltimore. You want a real super athlete, you go south. You want a complete basketball player and somebody that has dog and drive but with all those other things, you go to the Midwest. And I think that has shown when you look at the recruiting, especially that a lot of these colleges have done, everybody has always gone into Chicago. I don't care if it's the Big Ten, the Big East. I mean, John Thompson recruited me, for God's sakes.
Right.
People come in there from everywhere on the country because they understand, the people that know basketball understand what the Chicago products are like.
We've been prepared. We were prepared, and we were able to take criticism. We were able to take physicality. I just remember when I showed up at the University of Illinois, and Lou Henson, I went there as an All-American. I went there as one of the top players in the country. And so, I'm supposed to start when I show up. And I didn't play a ton as a freshman. By the way, that's why you got my record. You don't have to throw that out there. But
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I'm glad you got it, Deon. You know that. I mean, I let you know that when you did get it. But I went there, man, and Lou was like, he challenged me so much, man. Like now, and I want to give credit to why I even went to Illinois. I went to Illinois because I saw Levi Cobb, do tremendously well in high school at Morgan Park. I saw Neil Bresnahan do well at Fenwick, played against them, matter of fact, in high school. I saw those guys do well. I heard of Ken Ferdinand before I got down there. I heard of Rob Judson. And so, but Levi Cobb was really the reason that helped put Illinois on the radar for me. And I went there, and it was an agreement. And I told Lou this before he moved on, and he knew it, that Mark Aguirre was going to follow him. He was coming there, and Skip Dillard was too. But Lou did not play me a lot as a freshman, and guess what? I didn't deserve it. I didn't. I went there very talented. I could shoot. Like if I was open, I was knocking down shots. The problem was I was always on my back because I was 185 pounds. And he said, I can't play you because you're always on your back. And the Big Ten was physical, and you know this. And so I had to get stronger, man. And he's the reason why I made the league and lasted like I did, because he made me get in the weight room. I got in the weight room, man, and I went from 185 to 225 in about 7 months. And then I was knocking everybody else around. Oh, yeah. And so that helped me there. He humbled me. And so for me, man, just to be able to go there, come to Illinois, even though I thought I knew everything, was very talented as a basketball player, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And so that trail there, and just coming from Chicago and being prepared to take criticism, being prepared to get beat up physically and not quit, that was all based on my growth in Chicago. Yep. And on the playgrounds, and dealing with gangs, and having different and unique ways to get to school without getting robbed, and all the confrontations that I had of people that didn't want to climb the ladder with me, they wanted to pull me down. All of that, because of the love for the game, it prepared me for what Lou threw at me. Because if I wasn't prepared, like a lot of these kids are now, I would have left. And I would have transferred. I would either transferred to Michigan State, because Magic and I were very good friends, and he wanted me to come there, and he was in my ear, or go to DePaul. But I knew that I had to stay at Illinois and deal with it. And so Chicago definitely prepared me for that.
Well, I love the way you put that, because I think today's youth don't understand, and I think part of this is because of AAU, and they've been telling these kids that they're great since they were 5, when they really haven't had an opportunity to earn or learn anything. You nailed it right on the head. Going in as a freshman, you an All-American, myself as an All-American, I had no expectations that I was just gonna walk in there and play and do those things. And that was one of the great things that I think Coach Henson did. You could be the best player on the team. You didn't realize you were the best player on the team because he kept you humble. He kept you working hard. And you talk about going in at 185. I went in about 185 as well. And Lou rolled my butt. So, hey, you got to get in the weight room. And that was exactly what I needed. But he did those things And you're right. And it prepared us. We took what we learned in Chicago, applied it at Illinois, which I believe helped us both be successful. But your freshman year, as you say, you didn't play much. What was the biggest thing that you would take from your freshman year that helped catapult you into your sophomore year?
I was just mad. Really. I was mad, man, because it was like, I was mad at myself, not Lou. I was just mad that I missed out on certain things when I was, in my growth as a basketball player and getting all these accolades and in the paper all the time in Chicago and going to parade All-American games and traveling over to Europe. I'm hanging out with Magic Johnson and Darnell Valentine, Albert Kings of the world. And I'm thinking I'm just as good as they are. And I missed out on something. I missed out on the growth of my body and really paying attention to it. And so for me, man, I mean, I was just mad at myself. And I said, you know what, Eddie? The weight room coach's name is Coach Kroll. I don't know if he was there when you showed up. Yep. But I went to him. I said, hey, man, I'm not going home. I'm going to live in this weight room with you. And I said, you're going to make me stronger. And I was in there. When those guys would sleep, I'd get up early in the morning, meet him. I was working my summer job, but I was in that weight room with him 4 or 5 times a week. And man, I got third strong. And when I showed back up to practice, Neil Bresnahan was so used to throwing me around, I was throwing him around, and guys physically couldn't deal with me. And I played with anger. I did. I played with anger, man. And because I wanted to prove it to Coach, because I loved him to death. Tony Yates was obviously the guy that recruited me. I wanted to prove to him that he was wrong for not playing me. And I think Deon, probably, I would say maybe the third game of my sophomore year, he came up to me and he said, Eddie, you will start the rest of your career. And if you're tired, that's when you'll come out. Wow. As long as you play hard. And it never wavered. I mean, I pretty much checked myself in and out of games. I'd give him a look and he'd say, go. I mean, it was just that kind of communication we had because he loved my work ethic and he knew he had to have me in there for rebounding anyway and scoring. And that's how we did it. And so for me, man, it was just, for me, it was my hard work that got me there and Lou Henson put me in my place. It was tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at your freshman average, I mean, and if of course, I'm using the computer to date this, but you scored 8 points in 17 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of points in 17 minutes. I mean, if you total that out over 40 minutes, that's almost 20 a game as a freshman. Mm-hmm. But even that, you made a big jump, and 4 points may not sound like a lot, but you went from 8 points to 12 points. In your time, you talked about starting, you went from starting 3 games to starting 27 out of the 30. Yeah. So that hard work definitely paid off. And not just in your scoring, but in the time you were on the floor. If you look at your time at Illinois, right? I know the shot, of course, to beat Magic then was a huge shot. What if you had something that stand out to you during that time, what would it be?
I would think it's the growth, man, of me personally, because at that point in time, I have to be honest, that I wasn't thinking quote unquote MBA. I was thinking about being the first person in my family to get really my degree. Yeah. And my desire was to actually one day be a lawyer, be a teacher. And I wanted to prove to everybody that I could get my degree. That was always first and foremost on my mind because, making an MBA, man, that's like a far-fetched dream. Yeah. Very competitive. It's no guarantee. And so that's the way I approached it. And so for me, it was just really, I think, the development of me as a student and getting rid of that freaking label and tag that people can put on you and that you can't do something. And, I was majoring in the teaching of social studies initially, and then I had the student teach. And so I couldn't do that and be a basketball player. So I had to change to straight history. But along that route, I became very friendly with a lot of important people. Art Goldsmith was a guy that was a great economics teacher, professor at the University of Illinois. I had taken his class, and he just took interest in me. And he was a bit of mentor to me even to this day. He and his wife are still very good friends, and he's a tremendous professor on the East Coast. I mean, this guy teaches companies. He's ridiculous. And so he took me under his wing and just, stayed on top of me and got me to major in history. I told him that's what I love. So I majored in history. And then I got attached to different people in the department. And I told them that, I don't know if I'm gonna make the MBA or not. So I want to be able to set myself up to go to law school. And those people really started to groom me to do just that. And so lo and behold, my focus on basketball grew because of, I think, my focus on being a good student. And everything just grew for me, man. I started grasping things and stuff started hitting home that Lou was telling me. And I think I became a better leader. And all of a sudden, my game just ramped itself up. And all of a sudden, I put myself in position to actually get noticed at the highest level. And so for me, it was just a total growth throughout that whole process, man. Having the great assistant coaches that Lou had, and Tony Yates, Les Whitkey, Dick Nagy, Bob Hull was there. I mean, it was a lot of great young coaches there that I really admired and loved that weren't that much older than me. Larry Lubin stayed. He was a great teammate of mine at the point in time, but then he stayed on as an assistant coach. It was just guys like that, man, that just got me through. It was my whole entire experience at the University of Illinois. I wasn't a partier. I never was really out, man. Basketball and academic was my focus. And I think that's another reason why I was able to propel myself.
Well, I'll tell you that I love that mirror. Not to be throwing myself in there, but you said something to me that touched home. People always ask me, oh, well, did you always have in these NBA aspirations? And I tell them, I was like, that was never my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, I was like, I'd be the first one in my family to graduate. I wanted to be a judge. So of course, law school was in there, was able to develop a lot of those same, types of relationships with, was Dean Anderson now and other Black mentors that were on campus. This is one of those things that I try to tell young people today, from when I was coaching. I'm like,
is that Jim Anderson you talking about?
Yes.
And well, I got a story on him. So yeah, go ahead.
And this is one of those things, even when I was coaching, I would tell, and even now that I'm doing the radio, I tell these young people, stop making the NBA or professional sports your plan A. That should be your plan 1B, AB, or 1A1 or A2. That shouldn't be your overall goal. It should be graduating. Have you seen, of course, you've been on the radio and been in the NBA for a long time. What have you seen? Have you seen that? I've seen that part fall to the wayside, the importance of education. What have you seen, and how has that affected a lot of these kids that are coming into the league today?
Well, because I think they have really someone in their ear telling them when they're very young that they're going to make the league.
Yeah.
I happened to work for Adidas Nations after I retired for about 8 years. And a lot of the players in the NBA right now, I trained them. I trained them 3 times a year. They would come to Adidas Nations and I would work them out. Andre Drummond's of the world, Anthony Davis has been through there. It's just Kyle Anderson. It's just so many guys that I have touched. Aaron Holiday. It's just a lot of players that have gone through Adidas Nations over the years that I've had a hand on and touched. And they've made it to the NBA and they've done well. And, for me, I don't think people know how to say no to them.
Yeah.
Like you and I grew up, people would say no. Like we understood what the word no meant. And I think they don't get that. And so for when they do get to college, they're thinking one and done. They're thinking, I'm only going to be there 3 months. Education's not that important. I'm going to make millions of dollars. And I think that mindset catches some of them by surprise because they don't make it. they get drafted maybe late second round, or they don't get drafted, they go to G League, and all of a sudden they're laboring. See, I knew that I would have to labor. When I got drafted to the league, did I feel like I was the first round pick? Without a doubt. And I proved that. Like, I got drafted in 81. It's only about 3 guys scored more points in their career than me.
That's true.
They got drafted in 1981. Okay. So I know I proved I should have been top 5 pick, but they didn't pick me for various reasons. You know, probably they thought I was a power forward at 6'8", because I played a lot inside. They didn't know how well I could shoot to a high level. And so it was a lot of different things. I wasn't a great athlete, so they thought I would have a hard time scoring and all that stuff. So that pushed me down to the second round. But after I got drafted, I went back to work. I was working. I was teaching kids how to build a resume. That's what I was doing. I left there. Mark Aguirre and Isaiah Thomas, who childhood friends of mine, they went and jumped in their Mercedes and they went to celebrate their number 1 and number 2 status. I got on the train and went back to work on the south side of Chicago. So I was so grounded, man, and level-headed to understand that, Eddie, if you don't make it, there's other ways to do well. And I think because of that, it just propelled me. And when I got to the league, and when I got to Kansas City, I had a semi-good first year. It wasn't great. But then my second year, I said, you know what? I told one of the assistant coaches, I said, man, why is Kiki Vandeweghe and like Purvis Short destroying me every night? What are they doing? And he says, man, they go to Pete Newell's camp. Now, if I didn't have that understanding of education when I was at Illinois and just like knowing how to segue, knowing how to like keep building on my personality, that wouldn't have helped me. Like these young kids come in the league, they don't understand that. They think, give me the ball, I'll go. Yeah. Like Jalen Green this year, when he got drafted, he was mad he didn't get drafted 1 over the kid Cunningham. And he said, I'm an average 24. And I laughed. All right, I tweeted it out. People didn't like what I said. I laughed. I said, this dude don't get it. He's shooting like 39% from the field. In halftime, can't get his shot off, although he can jump over people. And he can't figure it out because he didn't want to learn at a higher level. Now he's learning. I heard he's learning now. He's humble. But see, I got humble quickly. So I went to Pete Newell's camp. I went from averaging 9 points a game my first year to almost 20 my second year. And it's because of the education that I got, the understanding, the grasp on the people to help me and condition me and get me along the way. It goes back to the guy you mentioned, Jim Anderson, and Hakeem Mohammed. Do you know Hakeem too?
I sure did.
Okay, so it goes back to those 2 dudes. They sensed that I needed that push. So they grabbed me and they grabbed Perry Range, anybody else they can grab, okay, that wanted to go. And we trained. Like on top of Illinois stuff, we train. We get up in the morning, every morning. We go to the football field. We run sprints. We do 220s. Then on odd days, we go run. And I don't know if you ran with them where you have to finish in the graveyard. We run all around and we have to finish in the graveyard. And I asked Akeem one day, I said, Akeem, man, why are we always finishing this run in the graveyard? And he said to me, Eddie, because when you get tired, I want you to look down. And I want you to ask yourself, if those people had a second chance, would they be tired running through here?
Wow.
Made sense to me, man. And Akeem obviously passed away a little short time ago. And I miss him dearly. He's a tremendous mentor. He and Jim were great mentors for me. And that's another help. So it's that stuff, man, that pushes you further along. It had nothing to do with just my talent. It has something to do with me opening my ears and listening. And a lot of young players today, they don't want to listen. And I think that's why they fail.
Yeah, I was always told by my college coach, high school coach, and then of course by Coach Collins, great players listen. Bad players, think they know everything. And then, there's also a lesson my grandmother used to always say. She used to say, the smartest person in the world is the one that understands they don't know everything. And the dumbest one in the world is the one that think he knows everything.
Yeah.
So to hear that, you went and you said, okay, you know what? I need to go to Pete Newell and work out with him, learn these things and really get a grasp on it. And you're right. Almost 20 points a game. your second year. Personally, and I'm going to say this, and I'm not just trying to butter you up. One day you need to be in the Hall of Fame, man.
Thank you.
And I think you will get there because what you have done over your career is just remarkable. I mean, the numbers you put up in the various places you put them up, has to be recognized. I mean, it has to be recognized. 89, you were sixth man of the year. And that was the year when I really started to get into basketball. So I remember all of that when you were doing those things. And again, I'm from the Chi. So you know how our generation, we studied those that came before us. We paid attention to those that came before us and wanted to know what they did. I mean, I almost went to, I thought about going to DePaul because of Skip and Mark and all of the Chicago guys that was on that team. And then I learned that Illinois was doing the exact same thing. And then I also realized that I needed to get off of the West Side and go get some distance between me.
Not take the bus to school, right? That was my whole thing. It's like, I love Ray Meyer, I love Joey Meyer, but it's like, I can't come here because it's almost like I'm still here. And I said, I many times I went to school where I always felt like, will I be able to make it back home alive? Because I got robbed at gunpoint. Gangs always tried to force you in. You know the deal, how they did us. And so I never really knew. But like again, they not smart. They weren't smart because they weren't in school. So I trick them 95% of the time and find my way to school, and they can never get their hands on me. But sometimes they catch me. And so I told myself, I said, I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to go far away. And so that's why I looked at the schools I looked at was Illinois, Iowa, Michigan State, Michigan, and USC. I even contemplated going all the way to USC. And so those were the schools, man, that I looked at. And unfortunately, it took me away from two coaches, and Ray Meyer and Joey Meyer, who I love, but I knew what was best for me. And I knew that I had to get away, man, because Chicago's been great to me. I love my city. I still support my teams. Diehard Cub fan, diehard Bears fan. Bulls, I take them or leave them because Jordan knocked me on my head so many times. It's just hard for me to love him after that. And understandably why he did it. He's one of the greatest basketball players ever lived. But I just said I had to get out. And then because I got tired of turning my head. And the situations that I got into, I was so thankful that I was able to navigate it when a lot of my friends weren't able to. And, and I go back to the neighborhood every now and then, stick my head in there. And sadly enough, I'll see the same guys I grew up with still in the same neighborhood. Yeah. And that really puts me in a down way because I just think progress should happen for everybody. And that hasn't been the case. So I'm very blessed and fortunate that I was able to do it.
Well, you know what it was is, and you know this, because a lot of those same people, when I go home, I see a lot of my same friends that are doing the same thing. A lot of them are dead and gone, but that was your work ethic. It was your foresight, that said, hey, I need to do some extra in order to be able to get something extra. And that's what you did. Your time in the NBA, 17 years, man. I mean, you put up over 19,000 points, over 4,000, almost 5,000 rebounds, not to mention the 2,500 plus assists, but never made an all-star game. Mm-hmm. Not that dictates how great you are, because I look at some of these people that are in all-star games and I'll throw my hands up because I just can't see it.
Right.
What was your level? How did you judge your level of excellence when you were in the league? Because of course everybody's is different. How did you look at yours?
Well, I always look at like your prime years, right? And so I got to the league at 22. And so you try to pretty much say from 22 to 28, those are your prime years. That's when you really figured out the game and the game slows down for you and you just got a hold on it. The science, and I was a scorer. And so my second year after going to Pete Newell, I developed the science of scoring. Mm-hmm. And I teach it to young kids all the time. it's not that difficult. I mean, for me, it's like I told him, look, you get 2 putbacks, 2 offensive rebounds. And I was a very good offensive rebounder. That's 4 points right there. Maybe you get an and one. That's fine. I said, okay, hopefully you can get to the line at least and get you 5 or 6 attempts based on the minutes you play. But you got to make your free throw. So I learned how to do that. Started shooting at a high rate. I finished my career around 85% as a free throw shooter. So right now, I got 11 points. Okay. So I got 10 or 11 points right there. Okay. If I can get 6 free throws, I got about maybe 5 points on putbacks. That's 11. I used to run like crazy. So I'm going to get 2 or 3 fast break buckets. Right. So now give me 2. That's 15. Oh, I'm going to knock down about 5 jumpers, 6 jumpers. That's 20 plus. It is easy. It's a science. But a lot of people didn't know that. I figured it out early because I got a lot of lessons from guys that could score that I played around. And for me, those prime years, I was averaging 21, 22, going into the All-Star break, averaging 23, 24, leading my team in scoring. But we weren't winning early on. And back then, they would basically judge you if you're winning and you're scoring. Yeah. And I believe that's the right way to do it. I have no issue with it. But I was at that point in time, I was like top 8 in scoring. I was like, 8 guys in the NBA. I'm like 8, 9, 10 right there. And we get to the All-Star break, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I got to make it. Didn't make it. And at that point in time, they would say, oh, you got to win. That's why you didn't make it. Okay, fine. I dealt with that. And then I went to Sacramento. I took one for the team. Our bench wasn't that strong. And they obviously was being creative with me too. They knew I was going to be a free agent. So you know how that goes. They're like, Eddie, we're going to bring you off the bench. Even though I'm leading the team in scoring and rebounding. I said, fine. So I do that, right? Should have won the 6th man of the year that first year in Sacramento. Didn't get it. All right. And then I went to Phoenix. And I was averaging 22 in 28 minutes. I was averaging 22 points in 28 minutes. Go to the All-Star break. We got one of the best records in the league. Okay, me, Tom Chambers, Kevin Johnson. Yep. I know I'm a shoe-in now. Didn't make it. Pat Riley says, well, if we put a guy that plays off the bench in the All-Star game, what does that say for our start? So my timing was always wrong, right? Now you're a bench player, you can get into the All-Star game. Yep. So, I mean, it was all about timing for me, but it kept pushing me. So, like, I was an answer right now to, a trivia deal for a lot of years until Jamal Crawford caught me as being the highest scoring player, in the history of the game off the bench. Yep. Jamal got me because, he's probably come off the bench a lot more than I did. I started my first 4 or 5 years and I was playing in 82 games. I wasn't missing many games. But yeah, I mean, so it bothers me. It does. I mean, I think if I had made an All-Star game and gotten credit for that, I think I probably would be in the Hall of Fame. But well, it's just those things, man, that now irk me a little bit. But people that was around the game, they know. They know. Guys that guarded me, they know. And to me, man, that's more important to me than just somebody voting me into something.
Well, this is why, even now that I do what I do on the, announcing on the collegiate level, I always do this, put up the air quotes for the so-called experts that make these decisions, the experts. I mean, you score more points than, all of the Hall of Famers with the exception of 30 of them.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I was the all-time leading. I was the 30th, I think, when I retired. I was ranked 30 or 32nd all time in scoring. Yeah. So yeah, it's like it's just all about timing, man. And obviously, people knowing you and all of that. But just to say that, Deon, seriously, I don't carry that at all. Like, I've had a great life, man. I mean, like, I went to Illinois, I got my degree, developed a lot of great friends out of there. I was able to play in the NBA, man, and play professional basketball for 17 years. I spent 1 year over in Europe, one of the best years of my life in Greece.
Oh yeah, we get into that one because
Yeah,
I spent 14 over
yeah,
there, so I
yeah.
definitely got to
So
get to that one.
yeah, so I mean, I'm good, but yeah, when people bring it up, yeah, it kind of irks me a little bit because I felt like I should have made at least two of them. Yeah.
Oh, you definitely should have. As I just mentioned, 14 years for me in Europe. You spent 1 year in Olympiacos in Greece, one of the best teams, best organizations in Europe. How was that year for you?
It was probably one of the best years of my life. It was a point in time, and I don't hide this. It was a point in time as basketball can frustrate you.
Yeah.
And for really the second time in my life as a basketball player, I was carrying a heavy load. Initially, beginning of my sophomore year in Illinois, my brother passed away at 25, and I suffered depression. I'm not gonna lie. I dealt with a lot of stuff that sophomore year, and the team knew it. Lou he knew about it, and I was going through a lot of things, man, and thought about just not playing that year and all of that. And then after I played in Charlotte, after getting traded from Seattle in 1994, I played in Charlotte, and I just experienced something I had never experienced. I experienced a coach that had already made a determination of me, even though I got traded to him, averaging 17 points a game. And he just made a determination of me, and he just made my year there just, if it wasn't for the great group of guys that was on that team, I would have gone nuts. But I think at that point in time, I started to go through some depression.
Mhm.
And so for me, I just felt like I needed a break. And lo and behold, collective bargaining took hold. They wouldn't offer me what I thought I deserved. So I said, I'm just going to go to Europe. And, Olympiacos, invited me over there. Went there to visit. My wife didn't know anything other than I was going to visit. She just didn't believe I was getting on a plane. There's a lot of NBA teams trying to sign me. And I said, I'm just going to go over there and see. And I just took a bag of clothes that was going to last me maybe 2 weeks. And I went over there, sat in the office of the owner. He just looked at me and said, hey, look, we want you. We had already negotiated if I do come there, what they're going to pay me. And it was a damn good offer. And I practiced with the team for about 2-3 days, man. And I played a friendly game over there. And man, I just called home. I just said, honey, back up. And I decided to stay. And it was the best year, man. I mean, I had to lead a lot of young guys. As you know, that's what we had to do.
Yep.
But we had a very talented team. And one of the best teams in Europe. And so we had a tremendous year. I dealt with the fans there, which was a different thing for me. I walked out to warm up my first game there, and a coin hit me right across my eye, a heated coin, and split my eye. And they thought I was gonna get on the plane and go back home.
Oh.
And I went in the locker room. They were all worried. I said, look, man, give me some stitches. Man, and it was against PAOK, which is in northern Greece.
Yep.
And you talking about the fans just on top of you. Like you walk into that gym is the most intense thing. And man, I wound up getting about 35 on them. I tried to destroy everybody in there. But along that game, I had a doorknob thrown at me when I was on the free throw line. I had a live fish thrown out. It was shaking on the floor. And when they threw the live fish out there on me, I started laughing. And then they started laughing. And I think right there, they liked me. They appreciated me. It's like, and then after that, I'd get hit every now and then. And, they sing crazy songs. But I would notice when I walked around Athens, those same people that were calling me names, they wanted to hug me and kiss me and say they love me and all of that. And I was like, okay, I get it. And after that, man, after I put my guard down, man, they just embraced me, man. I was like Michael Jordan, all kind of magazine covers. You know how it goes, man. I was enjoying this. But what it did for me, it made me feel like I was wanted. And I started to lose that feeling when I was in Charlotte. And it was the best thing to happen to me. And so we won the Greek championship over there, and then we lost the European championship to Sabonis. It just destroyed us. But so I had a great year. I mean, I almost won 2 championships over there. Love the people. Still got great friends over there. The team always brings me back, even to this day, if I want to. And so, yeah, it's just that was a great experience, man. But my kids were young. I wish they were older because I then would have stayed over there longer, but they wanted to come back home. And so I just came back and I just played 4 or 5 more years in India.
Well, you did. You had a great year, averaged over 20 points, 5 rebounds, couple assists on one of the absolute best teams in Europe. But I want to backtrack a little bit on something you just said, because I think it's an important point. The dealing with mental health. I don't know if you saw my interview with Myers Leonard. Myers and I had this really serious talk, because that's something that I have had to deal with, that I've dealt with some depression as well.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of it, stemmed from how we grew up, and the way we grew up, the pressures, and having to be right all the time. You had to present yourself all the time. You had to be on point all the time, and we were never able to really relax. And
Mhm.
then, like you said, there comes this point where there's a catalyst, something that kicks it off. The passing of your brother,
Yeah.
the situation in Charlotte. I mean, mine had to do with more family issues that really kicked those things off. So I want to thank you for sharing that,
Mhm.
because I don't think, well, in today's world, it's still stigmatized, even though very uh, some very important athletes, have had to go through and deal with this, throughout this year. And I think COVID has been even bigger issue for a lot of these athletes, dealing with, just the stresses of everyday life being a high level athlete.
Yeah. I mean, you got to work on it, man. And if you go through it, then you become a professional with it and understand how to deal with it. But yeah, when you grow up into an intense environment, man, I grew up in a family of 7, man. And my mom raised us all on one salary, which was simply amazing. And so she was really my hero in me just balancing it all, and just getting myself to that point. I was never really way over the top with it. It was more internal with me.
Mhm.
I didn't do anything silly or anything like that. I just knew that I was going through it.
Right.
And I just wasn't the person that I love to be. And so that year, man, over in Greece really helped me. And that's why I loved it. Like I have over 30,000 followers on Twitter, and I probably surmise maybe 12,000 are from Greece. And so we've maintained that relationship. And I give them all the credit for really balancing me and then sending me back to the NBA and prepared for everything as I was getting up there in age, as I dealt with a real bad knee injury, after being back 2 years and not knowing if I'd be able to come back and play after that. So just all those things, man. And so, yeah, when you're an athlete, man, people don't understand this. They like, even on Twitter, they think they can say anything to you.
Yes.
And like, I went through that. Obviously, I didn't play when Twitter was very hot and heavy, so I didn't experience it as a player. But I experience it now as an announcer for the Phoenix Suns. I experience it now as somebody that's very vocal on Twitter, in my
Mhm.
opinions. And people feel like they can say anything to you. And so, but I'm at a point now where I can say anything back to them.
Yep.
I'm 62 years old. I don't care. Like before, I would worry about what I said. I don't care. Very opinionated, whether it's political, whether it's anything. I don't care. I'm 62. What are you gonna do to me? I'm not gonna disrespect you, but I'm gonna state my opinion on everything. And that's the way I carry my life now. And I think people appreciate that and they respect it. But yeah, people feel like they can say anything they want to say to you. And I think a lot of young athletes go through depression now. It's a lot of them that go through it because they're reading every comment that people say about them now, because now the invisible person that would never ever be known or heard from can get on Twitter and get on your timeline and say whatever they want to say to you.
Yeah.
And, so today's athlete really goes through it. And I spend a lot of time talking to athletes and making sure that they're fine because I can sense it, like you can sense it as well if a particular player is going through it. And, I ran into Io in the NBA Summer League. And I know he's a serious kid, obviously, watching him at Illinois. But I made it a mission of mine when I saw him to like go up to him. He didn't know me. But I went up to him because I know when you're highly thought of as a high-level collegiate player and you're getting honors for player of the year and people are saying this about you and your team, one of the top teams in the country, and all of a sudden you get drafted in the second round.
Yeah.
That's tough. And I went up to him and told him, I said, hey, I'm Eddie Johnson. I'm not one of them guys with the ego to think these young guys should know who I am. And I said, look, I know you're disappointed that you didn't go high as you did, but guess what? Go prove it.
There you go.
And I ran into him at the All-Star game, and he remembered I ran into him. And I said, how's it going now? He smiled. And so those are the things you recognize when you go through it and you're an athlete. And so I think that should be the mission of every athlete that's played is to help the younger people belong.
Agreed, 100%. Before we move on to the next topic, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRiver Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up yet with BetRiver, now's the time because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season drawing to an end, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. You must be 21 years or older. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLERS. So, Eddie, you mentioned how Greece helped you. Mm-hmm. And we all, Father Time is undefeated. I felt this, you felt this. Charles Barkley talks about it a lot on how he felt it. When you came back to the league, dealing with the injuries, what was your outlook, seeing that the end and knowing that the end was near?
Man, it's tough. It's not an easy thing, man. It truly isn't. But I played till I was 40 years old.
There you go.
I mean, seriously. I mean, like my wife Joy, who I met at the University of Illinois, okay, as a freshman. An old guy like me, senior, dating a freshman. That was not easy to navigate that.
That is true.
But we've been married for 36 years, coming up on 37, and known each other for 40 years. So it was definitely the connection that was supposed to happen. And for me, man, it's like I've had so much success in this game, but it was hard giving it up. It was hard, man. I'm not gonna lie. My last year in Houston, I went through it. I did. I went through it, and because I knew it was the end.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just knew that it was coming, and that's why I segued. I started doing radio and TV when I was in my 13th year in the league. I started doing internships. I started preparing myself because I've worked my entire life since I was 14 years old. I've only taken 1 year off of work since I was 14 years old.
Wow.
And that's the first year I retired. That was it. And I wrote a book. So I don't know if I was really taking anything off. I locked myself in my office and went up to my cabin I had up north, and I would just write. I wrote so many different things, just the basketball stuff. I started writing for USA Today. But that was fun. But literally just working 1 year. And I haven't stopped since, man. I'll be 63 here coming up in May, and I can't. Because if I stop working, then I think that's when I start to regress. Even though I think I may have maybe another year or two in me, and then I'll just go on to other things, getting involved in companies and stuff like that. Not working, but just involved.
Right.
And so, and that's the way I look at it. But yeah, it's always difficult.
See, and that's one of those things. And that's why I answered that question as a prelude to this one. One of the issues that athletes have, especially ones that play at on a professional level, but I think it's athletes across the board, is identity and losing themselves in what they do instead of understanding who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And the sport that they play is just what they do. They're not a basketball player. They're a person that plays basketball. Right. And I think that's where we get a lot of loss. Is there any advice that you would give to, maybe a young person that's listening about just, keeping yourself centered and understanding, as you have done as you have explained so eloquently about how you lived your life, working and some of the other things that you've done to keep themselves, that may minimize that feeling of loss of identity?
Yeah, I would say that, you're not just, as you know, you're not just a basketball player, you're an individual. And as an individual, you're able and capable of learning and transitioning to anything that you want to do. And basketball is just a small part of your life. I mean, if you give up basketball and you're in your 30s, and that's what most players do, really, they're not blessed and fortunate enough to get to 40 like I did, you're going to stop playing this game in your 30s. I mean, you got a lot of years left.
Oh, yeah.
And what are you going to do with those? It should scare you. It should literally scare you. And that, look, it's no guarantee that whatever you made up into those 30s that you're going to still have. And so what are you going to do? And you should have that same fear now, that transition from basketball, when you were worried about making the team, when you were worried about maybe making the NBA, or if you're going to get your next check, or however it goes, it should transition now to the next 30 years, because now you're carrying a load probably. Maybe you have a wife, maybe you have kids. So now you got to figure out how you're going to keep this ball rolling. And for me, you got to get your education still. Education is the root of it all. And if you don't keep learning, then that's when you're going to hit a roadblock. Case in point, I mean, like when I quit playing, all right, I was already, like I said, ready to do games. I had educated myself. I had done my research. I had talked to great people that did games. I did internships. I had resume tapes. I was ready to go. On top of that, I had my degree. If I wanted to go back to law school, I could have. Okay, I'm still young enough. I could have, okay? Or I could have gone and got any kind of job that I wanted. I could have coached. I got offers to be assistant coach. I just didn't take it. I wanted to go home with my kids because of how I carried myself when I played. I was a leader. So I was able to transition over to everything. Okay, I even created a couple of companies. Okay, the knowledge from that. And so for me, I mean, you got to just keep the drive going if you're a young kid. And you got to find a way to keep making that transition, because nothing's guaranteed at all. And for me, man, it's a constant battle. And that's what kids got to understand, man. It's like, even though like some of these young kids, they're retired and they got, I'm not going to say the kid's name, but, I talked to him a lot. And the reason why I talked to him a lot, because he was suffering from depression. And I asked him one day, I said, man, you're always sad. And I said, it's not a financial problem, is it? And I was like, between you and I, how much money you got in the bank? I said, because I'm curious. I'm wondering if this is a family pressure. And he's like, no, Eddie, it's not that. He said, I have 136 million in my checking account.
Definitely not a reason to be depressed. Wow.
This was a top player.
Mm-hmm.
But he was sad. He didn't know what to do, because money don't make you happy.
No, it does not.
He epitomizes it. Now he's very active, coaching, wants to do great things. and is doing great things. And so that's, for me, man, you got to have value as a person. That's what's going to carry. It's not going the money and your accomplishments is not going to carry. It's not. It's just it's what you are as a person, man, and how people view you. And like you and I mean, you and I got to actually be on the board of a certain company. Many people don't get that opportunity, and it's kind of snowballed for me. Now, like I'm on the board of another company based in Europe, in the Middle East. Okay, so now I'm on two boards of companies that I never thought that would happen. And I'm the chairman of one of them. And this is an up and coming company that's going to do very well. But they are developing different boards and they wanted me to chair on one of their boards. I'm like, whoa. It's only because, man, that they just see you and they value, they see your life and they see my website. They see I love to talk to companies. They see that I love working with kids and they all of a sudden want to reward you, man, because they like how you are. And that's the key.
It's about the person. It's about the person and not necessarily about what you've done. And you have continued to honor your family, your upbringing, your city, your university by the things that you've done. Let's switch gears a little bit. Your Phoenix Suns are rolling, man. Whew.
Yeah, they are. And I went through a lot of suffering. So I'm enjoying it a lot better than a lot of people. And a lot of people on Twitter, if you don't follow me, Jump Shot 8, you'll see it. I probably got about 5 fan bases that can't stand me in the NBA. And I don't care. Because I went through 10 years of suffering. Like I had some success in the Steve Nash years. We went, playing great records, almost made the finals. Yeah. But since then, we have struggled as an organization, like 10, 11 years straight, not making the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, we draft Devin Booker, we draft DeAndre Ayton. Now we bring Chris Paul over. We draft Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, pick up a Jay Crowder. And all of a sudden, man, our record over the last 2 years is ridiculous. I mean, we're sitting here right now at 41-11. We're 21-2 since January the 1st. And Chris Paul is injured. Okay, we've had Devin Booker out. We've had DeAndre Ayton out. And this team still wins because they have a tremendous coach in Monty Williams. They have a great general manager in James Jones. And so the whole family atmosphere in this organization has really improved itself. And so that's where it is right now. And so these players are playing, man. And I'm calling games. I got the best job now in the league. And so I'm enjoying it, man. I got my chest out, man. I'm very opinionated as we go through this season. And loving it. But yeah, right now we're the best team in the league. But with Chris Paul out right now, obviously it's a challenge for us. But with 22 games left, 20 games left, 22 games left, we got to find a way because he might not be back probably until we got 4 or 5 games left in the season.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're talking about opinionated and best job. I love my job too. Sitting there, analyst for Illinois men's basketball. Loving it. I know you're still a big Illini fan and you watch them. What you see, what you like. I know we've had some ups and downs, some injuries, had to suffer through a lot of adversity. And in my opinion, the team hasn't hit its stride yet, even though we're down to our last 4 games. What have you seen in the games that you've been able to catch? And if there's a player out there on the squad that you really like, and the one that you might think has a chance at the next level?
Look, I'm just old school. Like, and you and I, obviously as ex-players, we're always going to put our coaching hat on because we call games. So we literally actually being the coach on the air.
Yep.
And, like last year and even more so this year, you don't win at the NCAA highest level unless you have great guard play. It just doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Like notoriously, the teams that win have great guard play, and this team has potential to have great guard play. That's an advantage. And so knowing that, and now the next step is great interior. Because see, if you got great guard play and your interior is good, then you're gonna get open jump shots. If everybody's really, I think, unselfish, they move the ball, That's how it's going to play out. And what I'm seeing right now is the inconsistencies, and this is going on throughout basketball with the young generation.
Yes.
They don't know how to throw the damn ball in the post.
Agreed.
Like, like when you grew up, reason why you scored a lot because you had guys that knew how to throw the ball in, and they were taught on it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going at the Illinois coaching staff with this because I'm with big monstrosity that we have in the middle, okay, and Kofi, that everybody knows that you're trying to get him the ball. All right. And he's done a very good job, I think, since last year of learning how to get position, hold his position, be able to catch the ball, okay, be patient, see if the double team's coming, and then do his thing. But it's the passing inside. Like we were always taught, get a better angle, get the best angle. If it's a dribble left, dribble right, ball fake, throw it down, fake down, throw it up. It's those things that drive me crazy when I watch this play. Because we miss so many opportunities to get him the ball in the perfect position. When he's going against that mountain at Purdue, who can't move laterally to save his life, okay? But if you try to go over the top of him, it's hard to do it.
Yeah.
But once he gets good post position, it's going to happen in the Big Ten tournament because they probably both play against each other. Who knows? Against each other. You got to get him the ball when he has the position to be able to take that drop step to keep his position and score the ball. If they do that in the NCAA tournament, we could go a long way. Because we got the shooting, we got the speed, we got the defense on the perimeter. It's really nothing that we're missing other than experience, confidence, and not be lazy when you're trying to execute a basic pass, man. That drives me crazy about college sports, man. And even young guys in the NBA. They just get so lazy, man, they have the basic of passes, man, to just throw it to a guy inside and let him take advantage of his opportunity.
Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. Those inconsistencies and not understanding that you have to play every second you're on the court. You can't have letdowns. You can't take breaks. You got to be at the top of your game at every moment that you're playing. And those have been some of the things that have creeped in on us. And like you mentioned, young guys in the NBA, until they learn, that is what they have to do. I got one more thing before I let you go. I mean, again, I know you was on a long flight home, and I appreciate you doing this for me, man. Our boy from Chicago, Juwan Howard, one of my best friends, guy I played against both in high school and college, who I believe he was last year's Big Ten Coach of the Year and national, if I'm not mistaken, or was definitely in the running for National Coach of the Year. Had a hiccup this week against the University of Wisconsin, where, and if you ask the media, they say he threw a punch. That you from the west side of Chicago, so am I. He's from the south side. That wasn't a punch. That was more so a slap. But he got suspended for the rest of the remainder of the season. He'll be back for the Big Ten tournament and fined $40,000. I was talking to some people, and I know that's not new. That's not Juwan. That's not who he is. So there had to be some things that got him upset, other than just a timeout or some things like that that was said. But the thing that concerned me is it's hard for us to get jobs anyway. And I don't want that to be able to affect the next Black coach that could be trying to get a head job somewhere. What's your thought process? I mean, you are a veteran in this at every level. What is your thought on this? And I know you've probably had some interactions with Juwan with y'all time in the NBA, but again, great person. I mean, one of my best friends. But I was upset, not at him, but at the situation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Juwan is a tremendous guy. I never met him a time where he didn't have a great smile, gave me my respect, called me a legend,
You are, baby.
Appreciate, that you were one of the guys that helped him prepare him for the game, to put his eyes on the game at a high level. Never have I encountered him where he has not been gracious and nice. And to me, that should say a lot.
Yes.
The problem I have with all of this is the hypocrisy of it all.
Yes.
I mean, really. Bobby Knight threw damn chairs across the freaking floor.
Yep.
Grabbed his player.
Slapped his player.
Slapped his player. And he didn't do a damn thing to him. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, you know, they all the way down on the Michigan side from what I saw in video. And, you know, and they're up in him and they're trying to confront him and they want to. And I'll keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. They don't want NBA players down in their game. They don't. Yeah. They're going to keep fighting it. Now, I get it. See, Deon, I'm not crazy. I get it. You don't want the NBA people down in your game because you know that they know stuff you don't know. Yep. It's not like you can't coach. Okay, I'm not saying that. I mean, it's great college coaches. But they know stuff you don't know. And they also know something that you can't throw in their face. Like, they can talk NBA and how they can get there. 5-star players, hey, this is how you can get there. It's no accident that Calipari was getting everybody because he was up there.
Yep.
So it's this hold on to what they have mentality. And then when the guy steps out of line like Juwan Howard, all of a sudden you slap him like that? Like you suspend him the rest of the season and you take money out of his pocket? Patrick Ewing, Juwan Howard, Penny Hardaway, just see the criticism that they get.
Yeah.
And it's not because, you know, and I'm not throwing a racial thing up there. I'm truly not. It's not that. It's that they're scared because they want to hold on to what they have. And I get it. Trust me, I can't stand analytical robots. Analytics has messed up our game. Don't like it. I think it's a part of the game, but stay in your cubicle. Yeah. Stay in your cubicle, keep your head down. Don't come out here and tell a guy that he shouldn't shoot on the right side of the floor because statistically you say he's missing over there. I want somebody to tell them how to get better on that side.
Yes.
So, I mean, and they're holding on to the game now. Guys like DeMar DeRozan, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, they can't go to sleep at night because they're looking at Kevin Durant play the mid-range and go get 30 and don't have to take a ton of threes. So I get it. And at the college game, that's what they're doing. They see these NBA players now starting to venture in. Mike Woodson.
Yeah.
You know, I ain't gonna say the reporter's name. You probably know. I mean, he ripping Mike Woodson and saying, well, the jury's out on him. Hold up. What coach in Indiana has done well over the last 10 freaking years?
Since Bobby Knight.
Thank you. So, yeah, so what are you talking about? So we all know that they're holding on to a game and they don't want NBA people to come down. Okay. But this is the crazy part. Juwan Howard played at Michigan.
Yep.
He put the work in. He decided to go there. And guess what? When he went to Michigan, they said, hey, go off and have a great life. You always be connected to Michigan. And if you do great things, guess what? You always got an opportunity to come back here. Finish your degree or maybe have a job. He did it the right way, and that's still an issue. So, you know, for me, it's just going to always be a constant battle. And like I said, I understand why they're holding on, but ultimately it's going to fraction off because these young kids want to make the highest level. These parents are training their kids, and they're looking at players making $200 million, making $100 million in their shoe contract. Okay, they want the right people teaching them and somebody they can identify with. And guess what? Okay, that just gives an opportunity to NBA coaches to come in. It's not gonna overflow. It truly isn't. But I think guys get a little worked up, and that's why I think they laid the heavy hand on them. You know, they shouldn't have been down there. That assistant coach should not have been down there. He deserved to get slapped.
But first of all, he's an assistant coach. Keep your mouth shut when you're talking to head coaches.
Thank you.
That's not supposed to be what you're doing. But Eddie, one of the things I like to do, big fella, and I'm gonna let you go. The last minute I like to give to the guest to address Illini Nation or whomever's listening, however you would like to. The mic is yours, big fella.
Look, Illinois is always in my heart. IOL, okay, I know, I-N-I. Always in my heart. And I've always pulled for Illinois ever since I left. The best 4 years of my life. I met my wife there. Been together for 40 years. So tremendous friends that I met there. And got my education. And educators pushed me, did not give me anything, made me earn everything. And that's what I wanted. As a freshman, my grades weren't that great when I showed up. And I learned a hard lesson. And I started to really concentrate. And it was all because they didn't give me anything, nothing. I tell people all the time, and I know those issues with Illinois, over the years where they said they were giving players nothing. You talk to any coach that was at Illinois, I never took a dime, ever. My whole goal was to make it and make it my way. And so for me, Illinois is always in my heart, because if it wasn't for that school, I would not be Eddie. And so I'm always wishing you great luck. And this is going to be a great trying run here, without a doubt. A lot of talented teams, even within the Big Ten. When you got Purdue and you got Wisconsin, well, guess what? We got to get a great seed in NCAA tournaments. We got to do well in the Big Ten. We got to finish this year great. And guess what, Illini? I'm always in your corner. So I'll continue to support you. And I'm so happy that you continue to support me.
The great Eddie Johnson, ladies and gents. So I appreciate you, Eddie, for joining me, man. And Juwan was right. You are a legend. You're a Chicago legend. You were one of the guys that I looked up to. The phone call you made for me when I broke your record, I truly appreciate to this day.
Meant to be broken, baby. Meant to be broken.
Yes, sir. And so I was just about to say, and I'm hoping the big fella stay a couple more and suck up some of that NIL money so I can do the same thing for him.
I got that right.
But Illini Nation, we're going to sign this out. I want to say thanks to the Field of 68 Media for carrying Champagne on Ice, and to my partners over at BetRiver Sportsbook. Could not do it without you. Thank you very much. Peace out, and ILL.
I am.
Amen.